Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of Next Level Play Therapy. Today, we're going to talk about case conceptualization, which is a really big, kind of scary word. I actually first learned this term, case conceptualization, back in 2010 when I had taken on a master's degree student, and we were meeting, when you're in your field placement, your practicum, your internship, your university liaison comes out and meets with your site supervisor and the university liaison used this big fancy word with me called case conceptualization. And I thought to myself, well, I could either fess up and ask what the heck that means, because now I'm intrigued. My little nerdy self got activated. Or I could try and bluff my way through it. And I'm a horrible bluffer. My husband always says I should never play poker, and I don't, because I'm terrible at it. Because I'm terrible at bluffing. So I opted for the first choice, which was to fess up and ask what is this case conceptualization thing? And so she explained it to me, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool, this word. So and whenever I use that term with mental health professionals, most of the people I interact with, not all, but most people are a little intimidated by that word, like I was when I first learned about it. So I've learned to talk about it a little bit more, because I don't think we fully I'll say appreciate, or maybe fully understand. I don't know if that's the right word. I'll go with fully appreciate the benefit of understanding what case conceptualization is. And in the play therapy arena, I find that it's a really helpful concept to understand, because here's what happens. How many of you have been, it usually happens in the middle phase, sometimes it happens in the first phase. There's usually, for any mental health model, there's usually at least 3 phases. Sometimes people split up, some models, split up that middle change phase, but there's always a beginning phase, which is like the warm up, establishing safety. Then there's the change phase. That's the longest phase. And then there's the termination phase. And that's where you're beginning to work towards graduating your clients. The change phase is the longest, because that's where the bulk of the change takes place. So typically what happens, how many of you, how often does this happen to you, or has it happened to you at least once, which is you're meeting with your client, they're coming every week, you start second guessing yourself, you start thinking, oh, I don't know what they're doing, I don't know what I'm doing. You start feeling a little panicky, maybe a little anxious. You start thinking, oh, maybe I'm not a good fit for this client because I don't know what I'm doing, or it's not working. I should refer them out. How many of you have ever had those thoughts during the course of your career? Maybe you're in that phase now. I'll be honest, I still sometimes have that on occasion. I still sometimes feel lost and stumped. And I've been doing it over 30 years now. So all of us experience it at some point or another. What I learned early on, if I understood this case conceptualization thing, and if I went through that process, I put myself in a much better place to figure things out. So I would love to hear from you guys your experiences with this. So feel free to post in the comments, post your comments, post your questions. I would love to know where you're from. What population are you working with? What setting are you working with? The only thing that I ask during these live stream episodes, so if you're watching on the live stream, or if you're listening on, or you're watching on the replay for the live stream, or maybe you're listening on the podcast, the only thing that I ask is that that you not post questions or information about actual clients, because it is a public format and we want to make sure to keep that private. So I'd love to know who's here. Post your name in the comments. And so thank you for being honest, Alva. Yes, all of them, right? We all have felt this way. I've been doing this over 30 years now. I have yet to meet somebody who hasn't experienced this, especially in the beginning when you're just learning something new. And I have an online program where I work with child and adolescent therapists, teaching them how to do the play therapy. And also, if they're interested in their RPT credential, which is through the Association for Play Therapy, then this program meets the criteria that is needed for that. And so one of the things that we talk about all the time is exactly all the questions I just went through asking you guys. But also what we do is, one of the initial skills we work a lot on is case conceptualization, and why that is important. We also talk a lot about involving parents. That's another topic. Excuse me, got a tickle in my throat. Have some of my coffee. But what I found is this concept of case conceptualization. A lot of people are not really familiar with what it is. Like I wasn't. And also, I think a lot of people are using it, but they don't realize they're using it. And with a little more intentionality with it, I feel like we get better results. So Alva says, I'm in Philadelphia, PA. Hey, that's where I was born. A very, very, very long time ago, Alva. I'm in LSW. Good for you. And I have a part-time private practice. I work with children and adolescents. That's awesome. I'm actually from the East Coast. I moved to the West Coast about 8.5 years ago. So I was outside, Alva. I was outside, lived outside Washington, D.C. in Virginia. So we would hang out up there sometimes in your neck of the woods, and go to the Jersey Shore during the summer. So yeah, that's awesome. Welcome, Alva. Yeah. So what I want to talk about today, I got a little sidetracked thinking about mild stomping grounds. What I want to talk about today is really does does case conceptualization even matter? How do you use it in play therapy? Does it matter in play therapy? Um, and what are the benefits of honing your skills a little bit more with this if you're in the mental health field? And also, what does this look like in play therapy? So let's get started with that. So what we're talking about today is, how does case conceptualization help in play therapy? And to answer that question, the first question we need to answer is, what is case conceptualization? And basically, case conceptualization is figuring out or developing your working hypothesis. That's what I like to call it. Your working hypothesis about what exactly is going on and what are the patterns that are sustaining and creating this situation going on with your clients, this problem that they're experiencing. So to do that, the first thing you have to do is to gather do your psychosocial assessment. Ask all the questions. It's really important to ask the questions. Don't just think about, oh, I just have to get this psychosocial over I have to do this documentation. We've all thought it. Silently in your head, raise your hand if you've ever thought psychosocial assessments were the bane of your existence. And I did initially early on. And then somewhere along the line, my little nerd kicked in and I thought, oh, I find out so much more information if I ask all questions. And I always give the example of, like, when my kids were little, I use this analogy a lot, talking about case conceptualization. And when my kids were little, they're young adults now. When my kids were little and I was a new mom, and you want to do everything right, your kids get sick, you want to find out what's going on, especially if you've gone to the doctor and they're not getting better, and everybody in your household is getting sick, and it's like week 7 and you've all been sick. So when I would take my kids to the doctor for something that was going on, I would go in there hoping, the doctor was going to know what it was and they would figure it out. And the doctor would know what questions to ask me so they could figure it out. And what I learned was, they don't always know what questions to ask. Like, I'm making assumptions that the doctor knows, and they're going to ask me all of the right questions, and that I'm going to leave there with good information. And what I realized was, they probably were figuring it out in their head, but they didn't ask me the questions. And so when I left, I had more questions than when I went in, but I was already gone. And I like to use that analogy because it's kind of like that psychosocial assessment. We worry that we're asking too many questions, that we're going to kind of offend or annoy parents when they're coming in, or kids when they're coming in with too many questions. And what I find is, more often than not, they actually, when they see that you're really trying to understand and the questions are really trying to understand, then it actually helps them feel more comfortable with you most of the time. Every once in a while, you have people with significant trauma and attachment histories that are generational. And so how you ask the questions makes a difference. We have to use empathy, unconditional positive regard. I like to use a lot of curiosity. I'm just wondering about this, or have you ever experienced this? I'm really just trying to understand, because it helps me figure out the best way to help you. So how you ask the questions is very important as well. But what I found is it actually helps to establish trust and safety in the beginning. So when you are doing your psychosocial assessment, it's really important to know what questions to ask and why you need to ask them. That's going to help you with your differential diagnosis. And I know some of you are probably rolling your eyes when I said diagnosis. I'm with you on that one sometimes too, because going through the differential diagnosis process is really challenging. It's, a lot of times diagnosis doesn't always fit perfectly. And I find as we get better at asking questions, we actually get a better idea of which diagnosis it is. Diagnosis is just a tool to help you understand a cluster of symptoms. It's going to also, depending on your model that you're using, you're going to use that different ways. If you're in private practice or you're billing insurance, then you're going to have to figure out the diagnosis. If you don't do that, you still need to figure out the diagnosis. We are supposed to do that because it gives us good information. And here's how that all fits with case conceptualization. All of that helps us formulate our case conceptualization, which is, as I'm gathering all of the information, I'm asking all of the questions, I'm figuring out, walking through my differential diagnosis process, I'm getting a sense of what is going on with my clients, what's activating this situation, these behaviors, this experience that they're having, and what are the patterns that are sustaining it. What are their patterns? What are the patterns in their family system? What are the ways in which parents are maybe unknowingly contributing to the problem, or maybe helping to keep it from getting worse? So all of these are things that we're gathering in our case conceptualization. And your case conceptualization is going to be heavily influenced by your play therapy model. For example, how you use case conceptualization for, let's say, child-centered play therapy is going to be very, 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 very different than it is for maybe Adlerian play therapy, or maybe CBT play therapy, or maybe your integrative model of play therapy. You're going to use it differently. And here's the thing. When you do your case conceptualization and you have your idea of what the diagnosis is, and you have that idea of what's going on with your clients and why is it happening, then when you're in that middle phase of the change process and you're feeling lost, confused, overwhelmed, your imposter syndrome is kicking in, then you can always go back to your initial case conceptualization. And then assessment is ongoing. We do that initial assessment, but assessment is ongoing. So we have our starting point with our initial working hypothesis, AKA case conceptualization. And then throughout the change process, we're kind of checking out with my working hypothesis. Is this matching up? Or maybe my initial case conceptualization was off, or maybe that was just the first layer and now we've taken care of that layer and I see the other layers underneath. So it's ongoing. And my case conceptualization, when I'm feeling lost and I'm not sure what's going on, I can go back to my case conceptualization to help me get back on track. And because your play therapy model influences, this is my second point, actually. I'm kind of melding the first and second point together. So the second one, how does case conceptualization work in play therapy? So here's how it works in play therapy. So when let's say I'm lost, I have my working hypothesis, AKA case conceptualization. So I go back to that, which is going to be heavily influenced by my play therapy model. So I go back to, let's say I'm using Adlerian play therapy, and my case conceptualization is I go back to my crucial C's and personality priorities. And I go back to my initial case conceptualization about that and how it has influenced my decision making for the treatment process, my decision making about what interventions I'm going to use. And maybe I've tried a couple, I've focused on maybe a specific area with the personality priorities, and I'm working on some interventions to create some shifts there to help them make that connection between the way they're going about doing it is actually not helping, and the need that they're trying to get met is a natural and normal and healthy need, and they go about doing it this way. This is where the interventions come in to create that shift. Then they're going to be able to get that need met. So that's all foundationally on my case conceptualization, influenced by how my play therapy model defines what the problem is, which then helps me figure out what I'm going to do in the sessions. Let's say I'm using child-centered play therapy. Child leads. I'm not leading. I'm not planning interventions. I'm not creating tracking segments to get them to go where I want them to go, or to point out and help them get insight that way by leading to get them to get the insight. What I'm doing is I'm going to be using my case conceptualization and my ongoing assessment to kind of help me understand the themes that are going on. How are they using the play therapy process to gain a better sense of self and feel more competent? And my tracking statements, because I'm understanding what's going on in the session, I'm going to be a little more on target with my tracking. I'm not leading, I'm following, and my tracking is a big part of the model. A really big part of the model is relationship. It is heavily relationship based and heavily trusting that given the free and protected space, the child will naturally move towards healing and wholeness. That's why I'm following, because I trust in my client's innate ability to get where they need to go. And so case conceptualization and how I use it is going to look very different in child-centered play therapy. And so to me, this is one of the reasons in Play Therapy Academy, when we have our group consultation meetings and people are doing their case presentations where they're staffing their client and we're talking about their client, one of the things that we really work on is like recognizing case or developing that case conceptualization so it becomes second nature and you can use it in the play therapy process in your sessions. And what does that look like with a specific model? Because I always encourage people, when, especially in the beginning, learn at least one play therapy model. Learn how it is applied with a variety of clients, variety of ages, through all the different stages of the change process. So you're looking at how is my case conceptualization influenced by this play therapy model? And then what does that look like when I'm actually in sessions with clients and I'm applying the model through each stage of the change process? So your play therapy case conceptualization is going to be a skill that's going to help guide you through the change process, applying a specific model. The other thing is it helps you be able to, when you're working with parents and you're meeting with them for your parent-only sessions, especially in the beginning, then it's going to help you have a way to communicate with parents, help parents understand the change process, help parents understand their role, where they fit in the change process, in a way that you can do that and maintain some privacy for the play therapy sessions, and also help to engage them as your partner. It's going to give you some language to help them know what needs to happen in the change process. And that's one of the benefits. So that brings me to my third point, which is benefits. It gives, what are the benefits of developing your play therapy case conceptualization skill, which is a foundational competency for being a play therapist, is that case conceptualization, diagnosis, treatment planning, all of those things, depending on your play therapy model. So what are some of the benefits of honing this skill, and how is it going to help your clients get better? That's the goal, right? We want to make a difference in the lives of our clients. How many of you got into the mental health field to do paperwork, to do case management assessments? How many of you got into the play therapy field or child and adolescent field because you just love writing up psychosocials from a documentation standpoint, right? Nobody, there may be one or two. I'm, never say never, right? None of us, most of us don't get in because we like documentation. We get into the mental health field because we like helping people. We want to make a difference. We want to help them improve their lives. And we like working with children and adolescents because we can intervene early. We can intervene and make a difference early on, and hopefully change the trajectory of their adult experiences. That's the goal, right? So, really developing this skill of case conceptualization makes your decision making, your clinical decision making, gives it a little more intentionality to it. It helps you to figure out, what do you need to do? That's treatment planning, right? Treatment planning is, now that I know what the problem is and why it's happening, now I know how this specific play therapy model is going to help them get better. That if we have a better understanding of what's going on, then we have more ability to figure out what to do in sessions, or understand what's going on in sessions, depending on your play therapy model. Also, you're going to have more confidence in your decision making because you won't feel lost, overwhelmed, frustrated, feeling like a big old imposter that your client's parents and your client are going to figure out at any moment in time, and they're going to think you're a giant fraud. When case conceptualization, I think what I notice, especially in Play Therapy Academy, when we go through that case conceptualization process, people have your confidence goes up, your knowledge base goes up, you're figuring things out faster, which makes you feel better about how you're helping your clients. And the other thing is, it really does help you as you're feeling more confident and able to kind of hold that therapeutic space. You'll also notice your therapeutic relationship is going to get better as well, because you're going to feel more confident how to guide them through the change process. So that is it for today. Let me do a quick recap before we end. Also, if you're interested, I am going to talk a little bit. I have openings right now for Play Therapy Academy. I have a few openings that have come up. The only time I get openings is when somebody finishes or they take a break or leave. So they don't come up very often, and they have come up. I have some openings now. So if you stay tuned, and I will tell you a little bit more about that. Also, my amazing virtual assistant, Brill, is going to be putting some links in the comments. So if you're interested, you can click on those links and find out more. So what is case conceptualization? Basically, case conceptualization is once you have gathered all of the information initially, asked all the questions, gotten all the information, you're using that to help you get a better sense of what are the roots of the problem that your client is experiencing and what are the patterns that are sustaining it in that client. Maybe what are the client's patterns? What's the family system patterns that are going on? That formulates your initial case conceptualization, which I also call AKA your working hypothesis. Then assessment is ongoing throughout the change process, and you will adjust your case conceptualization as needed. And your case conceptualization is going to be heavily influenced by your play therapy model. And how does it work in play therapy? So your play therapy model is going to influence your case conceptualization, because your play therapy theoretical model is going to influence how are you making sense of the problem and what's causing the problem. For example, in child-centered play therapy, your case conceptualization is going to look much different. You're in that initial psychosocial assessment, you're going to gather all of the information and you're going to formulate your case conceptualization. It's going to give you your diagnosis. And then that's going to give you a sense of understanding a little bit more what are the themes going on in the session. Sometimes you just have to trust the process. 30 years in, I'm still trusting the process when I use child-centered play therapy. I do that pretty exclusively with the young kids. That's what I was originally trained in, child-centered play therapy. And how you show up, how you use that case conceptualization is going to influence your decision making about how you're being fully present in the moment tracking. It's going to influence your tracking statements and and again, you're not leading with your tracking statements, you're following and reflecting. And what I found is when you have a better sense of what's probably going on, you're a little more able to understand the behavior. And so it can influence some of your tracking statements. Sometimes not. Sometimes we just follow along, right? And versus maybe Adlerian play therapy, you're going to do that initial case conceptualization to formulate your working hypothesis. That's going to influence your treatment planning in terms of now you're identifying personality priorities, you're identifying, looking at crucial C's, you're kind of assessing what's going on with that as it's contributing, as it's kind of explaining the problem your clients are experiencing. And then that's going to influence what kind of activities that you're doing in play therapy. So we have a question from YouTube, Mossy Sloth. Do you use Santre? Yes. And I would say Santre is also going to be influenced by your theoretical model. So in play therapy, I use Santre all the time. And most of us, I would say, not everybody, but I would say a lot of people who are using play therapy also have sand tray and miniatures in their playroom. So the benefits of case conceptualization are really that it kind of helps you hone in on what the problem is, helps you have a better understanding of what's going on. So when you're in the middle of the change process and you've continued your working hypothesis process, when you're feeling lost and overwhelmed, just go back to your case conceptualization. What does your theory model say? How is your theory model understanding what's going on? Get back on track and plan our interventions, or have a better sense of what we're working on. Parents in those parent only sessions, I would say that's also another place where case conceptualization comes in pretty handy when you're using a child-centered play therapy model, is in your parent only sessions. Because if you're using child-centered play therapy, you do not have parents in there unless they're like mommy statue or something, or daddy statue, working on getting them out of the playroom. Benefits are also just gives you more confidence in your decision making and helps you really understand where to focus on, strategies, goals for the treatment process. That also kind of helps to strengthen that therapeutic rapport. So that is it for today. So if you've been interested in thinking about, I really want to learn play therapy, I want to hone my skills in play therapy, I want to make sure I'm doing right by my clients and using play therapy in a way that really helps them to get better and to have more resiliency and have that good life that we hope for them. And maybe you are not quite sure how to go about that. Play Therapy Academy is my online play therapy program that I designed to be very hands-on, meaning we have twice a month group consultations where you do a case presentation. We specifically focus on your client, but maybe it's not your group. You're not scheduled to present. You're also learning from other people and what different play therapy models look like with other children, other models, gaining some confidence in identifying themes in play therapy sessions, understanding how to apply a theory model, why that even matters, understanding how to recognize where your clients are in the change process. So if you're interested, Play Therapy Academy has some courses in it as well. Getting grounded in play therapy case conceptualization is one of those courses in the program. And then we also have a group chat feature where you get support outside of those group consultation meetings. So lots of support, lots of hands-on to help you get the confidence that you need in order to feel good about what you're doing in the work that you're doing with your clients. So if you're interested, pop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com. That's Renewing Hearts playtherapytraining.com. Go over to the supervision page. You'll find out more about Play Therapy Academy. If you're interested in learning about whether or not it will be useful for you, then schedule a 30-minute video call with me and we'll hop on a Zoom call and you can ask questions and it's not a big deal. We just hop on a call and see if it's a good fit. I explain it a little bit more how it works, make sure that it's a good fit for you. So if you're interested, you can look on my website, which is rhplaytherapytraining.com. Hop over to the supervision page. You'll see where you can schedule a 30-minute video call with me. It's free, no cost, no obligations. You can hop on the call. We also put links in the comments if you want to schedule that video call as well. But maybe you don't need Play Therapy Academy, but you really are interested in learning more about case conceptualization. You can just purchase any of the courses on my website. Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Case Conceptualization will walk you through the whole process. I use different play therapy models. We use 4 different play therapy models, use case studies to see what that looks like and how that process works. So that's it for today, and I will see you next week. Alrighty, bye for now. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media and visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.